All right, we'll bring him on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I got to go to work now.
That's terrific.
Okay, there are some other folks on the call that I would like to say hello to.
Please.
My son Jim, my daughter Casey, my niece Karen, Sean, her son. Those are official family members. Mr. Rattray from California, who's my brother-in-law, or are you in Alabama, which? So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. You'll excuse me for a moment. Really, really, really very much appreciated. I can't really say how much, but usually I'm not at a loss for words. But and there's my grandson, James. There's 3 James McCaffreys on the right now.
Well, Jim, I have something in common with your son. I literally just stepped off the baseball field. We won at the bottom of the 6th, so it's a
Nice.
good day.
Excellent.
We made it over here in time for your parade.
Terrific. Thank you very much. I'm glad my wife gave a heads up to the neighbors so I wouldn't be too upset. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And thank you to all of the McCaffrey family for sharing your dad, uncle, grandfather with us. We've been very lucky to have him and enjoy his wisdom for many, many years. So much appreciated.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James McCaffrey for president 2024.
I like it.
Which one? Okay, thank you, folks. We do have some announcements to make. This was not one of them, but in any event, I appreciate it. Couple things. We're talking about thanks. I just want to take an opportunity to thank everybody for all the hard work to help us have a successful town meeting earlier on Saturday. It was a meeting that we had over 350 of our fellow citizens appear at, and it went very well, very effectively accomplished. Thanks so much to the DPW for setting us up, the police and fire for supporting it, John Engler and the team at the school for doing a fantastic job. Even wheeling out a bunch of extra seats when we saw that the crowd was so great. Town clerk's office and all those tellers and poll checkers who made sure everybody who was entitled to come in was able to come in. So, and of course the moderator in moderating the meeting and the FinCom for helping us get through. So thank you very much for that effort. It's really an important achievement at times like this to be able to effectively hold a town meeting. The second one we've now had outdoors, and by far the largest one. I hope is that we'll go down on the record books forever as the largest outdoor meeting we ever held, because we'll be able to go indoors sometime soon, so that we're going to be able to hold the town meetings inside again. So thank you all for that. I want to thank our staff, the town administrator's office, for pulling together all the information. Thanks to some young people don't know that they're not supposed to come in. Bye, Brandon. Sorry about that. Where was I? I was thanking everybody. Well, thanks. Thanks so much. I did want to just point out to the community as well what a great job our team has done in pulling together all the financial information, the budget document, which is now a document that is long and comprehensive. It's available to everybody. Thanks to Carol and Maureen and everybody else for putting together the town report, which we were able to get out in time, with, of course, the famous drone picture of the November town meeting that Chief Sapphire was able to provide us with. So thanks, everybody, for that. With that said, running a little bit late now because of some unanticipated items that arose. I'd like to talk a little bit about the COVID update. Mr. Gazinski, you have some information you want to share with us in terms of the latest facts with respect to COVID and also our hopes for reopening the town hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those who may not be aware, the VMB has been closed to walk-in service to the public since March of 2020. The town's health director and I have been following closely along with all the protocols and different areas of safety measures that not only the state's recommending, but also area towns have been instituting. We do have some good news on this front. About 3 weeks ago, we were in the red, but Millis is now in the green. As everyone's aware, effective April 19th, the vaccinations for COVID have been open to all residents over the age of 16 in Massachusetts. Many of our town employees either have been vaccinated or are in the process of being vaccinated. In light of all these updates and in discussion with the health director, I am recommending that the board open the Veterans Memorial Building to walk-in service for residents effective Tuesday, May 11th, which is the day after the town election. I would like to continue, and I will be continuing to monitor the situation with our health director here. And if the town's status changes, if we go back into the red, I would be probably looking to cease that, but we're hopeful that will not happen. I do believe, as does the health director, that with proper safety protocols, the requirement of masks for everyone entering the building, social distancing, as well as the other precautions we've set up in the town hall for plexiglass and other partitions, that we can safely operate in that manner at that time. And so that would be my recommendation, of which the health director at this time is supportive of. Just to note that this does not include either board or committee meetings in person at this time, or for any group events in the gymnasium or the senior center or any other of our meeting spaces. Those will still have to be approved on a case-by-case basis by the health director for those types of events. So for the time being, we would still be conducting board and committee meetings through Zoom. And I would expect that we'll take a look at those issues probably sometime, again, around the end of May, beginning of June, to see where we are as far as vaccinations and the status of Millis. So that's my recommendation at this time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board members have in regards to that recommendation.
Okay, any questions from the board members? Mr. Germain?
I think the only question I would have is, do we want to restrict just to people who've had vaccinations, even just one shot, or are we just opening the town hall to anyone?
Yeah, that would be a very difficult thing to try to police something like that. So we are opening, we obviously strongly recommend that all residents in town become vaccinated. That would not be a requirement, but what would be a requirement would that they have masks on. All people coming to the Veterans Memorial Building would have to have masks on at all times with no exceptions. If someone needs to conduct town business and for whatever reason chooses not to, or for a medical reason cannot wear a mask, we will make alternate arrangements to conduct their business with the town. But I'm not aware of any town halls or any other government buildings that are really able to enforce that type of restriction.
Any further comment from the board? I assume that because this board will not, and all of it will not be meeting before the 11th, you'd want a vote to approve your recommendation in terms of the reopening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that and also provide me with the authorization to close again in consultation with the health director should conditions change to the extent that that would be the recommendation of the health director.
Okay. So do I have a motion to that effect?
Sure. I move that we approve the town administrator's recommendation for reopening the town hall on Tuesday, May 11th, with all appropriate precautions in place, and to also authorize him, should the town go in the red again, to take the appropriate actions.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded for the board to approve the town administrator's recommendation on the opening and reserving the responsibility to close if with the consultation of the health director in the case of a unfortunate resurgence. So I will poll the board for the vote on that. Mr. McCaffrey, yes. Mr. Jermaine?
Yes.
Ms. Underhill?
Yes.
That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have an item on our agenda, which is just an opportunity for the board to follow up with any discussion from the town meeting. I think that first thing I'd like to just suggest is, as a natural follow-up, we did have some discussion as board members on the next steps with respect to the executing the purchase of the Village Street Farm. We have received some information from town council as to the next steps to follow. And Mr. Kaczynski, if you have that handy, can you just out for the public what the next steps will be?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In consultation with town council following town meeting, he has outlined the steps involved in moving forward with the purchase of the property. The next step, which could happen as soon as the select board's next meeting, would be a vote to exercise the town's option, subject to the drafting and execution of a purchase and sales agreement, and authorizing either the town administrator or the chair of the board to execute that notice and a purchase and sales agreement. And if the board takes that action, the next step would be for town council to draft a purchase and sales agreement for review and approval by the board, then to transmit the notice and the purchase and sales to the owner of the property and record those documents. We would then need to negotiate the purchase and sales to a final language with the owner and execute that agreement. The town would then have the opportunity to conduct due diligence on the site through any testing of the site, reviews, further examinations, to be assured that the site is in a condition that the town officials find acceptable and the board would agree to accept. And then a closing would happen within 90 days of the execution of the purchase and sales agreement. And obviously, as part of that, we would, and at the same time, we'd be working with our treasurer's office on the borrowing necessary for that purchase.
Okay, very good. Any comments from the board members, Mr. Jermaine?
No, I've read through the recommendations from town council, and I fully concur with the procedure as he's outlined it.
Very good. So there's a few administrative steps that are being followed here to make sure that everything is done and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And certainly I would expect that at one of the meetings in May that this will be acted upon so that the town can continue with the process of acquiring the property on Village Street in accordance with the town meeting vote. So that's just execution for us at this point because the decision was made by town meeting and now it's a process of going forward. Any other comments about follow-up to town meeting?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jermaine? Yeah.
according to the steps that I see in front of me, we should be voting to exercise the town's option now that the town has voted, and subject to drafting and execution of purchase and sale and authorizing town administrator. That seems to be step one for us to vote that.
Right.
So I so move.
Oh, you want to vote it tonight? Okay, fine.
I think we ought to do so.
Okay.
Second.
So there's a motion on the floor then for the select board. The motion is to vote to exercise the town's option on the purchase of the land at 377 Village Street, subject to drafting and execution of a purchase and sale agreement, and authorizing the town administrator and or the board chair to execute that notice and the purchase and sale agreement itself. So there's two things here. One is the notice and the other is the purchase and sale itself. So I will poll the board on this particular item with respect to the purchase. Mr. McCaffrey, yes. Mr. Germain?
Yes.
Ms. Underhill?
Yes.
So that motion is carried unanimously, and we will be moving forward then through the what amounts to the administrative steps to finalize the purchase of the property, and the decision having been taken at town meeting. Any other comments about town meeting that we'd like to share with the community at this point?
Chairman McCaffrey.
Ms. Underhill?
I would just like to say that I was very happy to see such a decent turnout. You know, we are still dealing with a pandemic, and although we were outside, it was great to see so many people there, and so many people that, you know, it was their first town meeting. A lot of people had the courage to get up and speak and engage, and I thought that was wonderful. And, you know, I think it went really well, and I hope people learned a lot about the process that were new, and that we see more involvement at the next meeting.
Mr. Germain?
I tend to agree entirely with what my compatriot has said. I would also add that there was a lot of participation by individuals in the discussion area. And I think that's very important. I would hope that we can get more people interested in attending some of our meetings so they become more familiar with the issues beforehand. But I also think it's great that many of them are willing to stand up and make their views known at town meeting, and I would encourage that at any time. And I think that certain individuals suddenly had a problem. There he is.
I'm trying to maintain decorum here. But I can assure you I have absolutely no control about what's going on in this house. I don't even have any influence.
We're still going to hold you accountable, but that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I would like to also thank everybody for attending the town meeting. I thought, as my colleagues have indicated, it was a pretty robust turnout. We had hundreds of people there. I just want to, again, thank the folks that were involved in the logistics. The fact that it works is not just an accident. It's people working on the logistics so that we can all have the town meeting and pull it off effectively, you know, from the chairs to the speakers to the people who were doing the checking in to the people who were sanitizing their microphones. None of this happened just by chance, because there was quite a bit of planning that went into it, just like the prior outdoor meeting. So thanks to everybody. I do want to tell them that I think everyone appreciates their efforts. Okay, with that said, we have the next item on our agenda now, which is discussion by the board on the town administrator's annual merit adjustment. The employment contract that the town entered into with the town administrator in the most recent contract it has a pay component, has a salary, like cost of living adjustment component, but it also has a performance-based component in it as well. So at this point, the town administrator's salary cost of living increase for the town administrator is set at a 1.5%, and the Board of Selectmen has the opportunity to review his performance and determine whether or not an additional amount could be awarded up to an additional 1.5%. The board met earlier this evening and just determined that based upon our performance appraisal of the town administrator's performance, which we conducted publicly last meeting, we felt as though he had shown strong performance, had done a good job in a difficult situation. That's the understatement of the world. A very difficult situation. So at this point, we believe that some performance-based component has been warranted by his accomplishments and by his performance, which is what this is intended to be. So the board tonight is going to vote on an additional 1% increment for the town administrator, which would bring his total adjustment to 2.5% for the coming year, or the fiscal year beginning on July 1. So I think what we'll do here is I'll ask the board to vote on this, and then we'll ask the town administrator just to give his, I'm not sure it's the reaction, his comments on the action. So do I have a motion that the board would, according to the employment contract with town administrator, award him the additional 1% salary increment for the coming fiscal year?
I move that we award the town administrator an additional 1% for excellent performance in this year for the next year.
Second.
So it has been moved and seconded that the board determined to award the town administrator an additional 1% above the cost of living adjustment to reflect his strong performance in the prior year. So I will poll the board. Mr. McCaffrey, yes. Mr. Germain?
Yes.
Ms. Underhill?
Yes.
That motion is carried unanimously. So we want to express our thanks to the town administrator for his performance and give him the opportunity to just talk with us a little bit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's more than fair, and I appreciate the time and energy that the board has spent on a very thorough evaluation, which I found very useful, and will certainly take a lot of the guidance from that moving forward. And again, I appreciate the consideration, and I just want to take a minute, first of all, to thank all the hardworking town employees and officials that I work with on a day-to-day basis for all their hard work, which makes all of the positive accomplishments of the town able to happen. So I think a shout out to them, and I appreciate all the work that has happened with the board. I look forward to working with the board moving forward into next year. And I'll also use this opportunity to say that it's been an honor and privilege to work with Mr. McCaffrey over the past 4 years. The last remaining member of the board was here when I came on board. So just want to thank him for all his guidance and assistance over these past 4 years, and hoping he does not become a stranger, and look forward to seeing him on the Capital Committee or other committees moving forward. So again, thank you, and thanks to the whole board, and look forward to moving ahead.
Only if I can wear my hat.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If I may take a couple of seconds, we have some people joining us, and I'll make sure to give them the time to join us. There was another announcement that I intended to make, but I overlooked it. But I wanted to just make that announcement to the community. As many of you are aware, the federal government enacted the American Rescue Plan Act in the earlier part of this year. That particular federal legislation provides significant aid to state and local governments as well as local schools. So we're in the process right now of evaluating what the allocation is likely to be to the town of Millis. And in terms of this allocation methodology this time, it seems to have sort of shaken out in two components. Again, this is the federal funding. The first component is an automatic direct allocation to the cities and towns, which the town of Millis has received notice that we will be receiving. Now, this is in addition to the CARES Act funding. But also there's a second component, which in this round is going to be granted to Norfolk County. And Norfolk County will in turn review its decision as to how this would be allocated. The select board, and as well as other select boards around the county, we're of the view that the right way to do this really is to follow through with the allocation methodology that occurred with the last go round of federal aid, which is really to, perhaps take some funding might necessary at the county level, but to get as much as possible allocated out to the cities and towns, which is where we believe the real impact of this has been. Not to diminish what the counties had to deal with, but if you look at police, fire, healthcare, all those kinds of issues are really dealt with at the local level. So the select board will be signing a letter tonight, and tomorrow we'll sign it, which goes to the county commissioners, asking them two things. One would be to implement a direct allocation to the town and the other cities and towns in the county, and also to make their decision as quickly as possible, so that we don't get ourselves find delay because of some activity that's going on at a different level of government that isn't necessarily going to add tremendous amount of value to the equation. So this board has discussed already, and we have in our budget deployed some of the marijuana funds to support some summer programs for youth in the town as we begin to emerge from COVID. So we would hope that the county would act quickly and as swiftly as possible to allocate the lion's share of these funds out to the cities and towns where we all know we've got some real needs and some real opportunities to help our community and the other cities and towns around us to support the citizens of Millis as we emerge from this very difficult period. So I did want to just make that announcement to the community to let you know what other activities going on with respect to the federal funding, which of course you may hear about. And I wanted to give everybody an update as to how that applies to the town of Millis. So that being said, I think I see that we can safely arrive at the next item on our agenda, which is really something that I'm very gratified that we're able to do this evening, which is to recognize a tremendous public servant, Kathy Lannon. Kathy is retiring from the Board of Health after 2 decades plus of service, and the length of time is simply not sufficient to give people the real scope of the work she's done, the contributions she's made, her steady, even-handed, knowledgeable support, as well as her extraordinary efforts over the last 2 years as she's helped this community work its way through a very difficult time for all of us. So we're happy tonight. First of all, Kathy, I'm delighted to shine the spotlight on somebody else. That's number one. Number two is to really let you know how this community feels about your contribution. And we're able to do it on several levels. First would be we have the opportunity to share with you some recognition at the state level. I see we have Representative Linsky on the call. And when he visited Millis on Saturday, he was able to deliver to us some information with regard to a resolution from the House, but I'd asked Representative Linsky if he'd just like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's a pleasure to see everybody here in this Zoom Select Board meeting. I wish we were all in person. Kathy Lannon, well, congratulations on your retirement from the Board of Health, but I know that you will probably, or I'm sure you will certainly remain involved in the town affairs and the community affairs of Millis as you have done for such a long time. I can't imagine what it has been like to be on the Board of Health over the past year or so. You didn't sign up for this. You really didn't. But the job that you and the other members of the Board of Health and staff of the Board of Health has been so incredibly important to all of us. And everyone in Millis certainly owes you an incredible debt of gratitude. We really do. This is literally life-saving, the work that you have done over the past year. I talked to, I'm sure you heard a little bit when I talked about this, talking about Jim at town meeting on Saturday, but it certainly goes for you probably double over the past year, that local government, number one, cannot function without dedicated volunteers like yourself. Then you have served in so many different roles. And that local government really, truly does have more direct effect on people's lives than even the President of the United States does. And I think this is particularly important on the work of the Board of Health, quite frankly, given the important role in keeping us all healthy and safe and have clean drinking water and all of the important tasks that the Board of Health does. So in recognition of that, Representative Dooley and I jointly offered a resolution, which I believe Jim or Karen or somebody else physically has right now. Because Aaron. I handed it to them. Aaron, you have it.
Clerk has that, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, honoring you. And they will get it to you somehow, I'm sure, in Millis. Also, Senator Roush did one, and I believe, Aaron, you have it too, on behalf of the Senate, and just in recognition, and these are just very small tokens of how much we and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the House of Representatives and the State Senate appreciate your work, and we'll just say thank you. Thank you, Kathy Lannon, for everything that you have done. I get a feeling you will be back in some fashion. So thank you very much, Kathy. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me these few minutes in your waning days of service in your current position.
Thank you. Nicholas, would you like to add something?
Just on behalf of Representative Dooley's office, thank you so much for your years of service to the town of Millis. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. So I will ask the clerk to share with us the resolutions that we have received from our state delegation, which is much appreciated.
Okay, so the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Kathy Lannon in recognition of your outstanding service and commitment to health and well-being of the residents of Millis for the past 22 years. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this 26th day of April 2021 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, by Ronald Mariano, Speaker of the House, and offered by David Linsky and Sean Dooley. And also the Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Senate official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Kathy Lannon in recognition of your years of dedication and service to protecting the health and safety of the entire Millis community. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. And this is signed by the President of the Senate, Karen Spilka, attested by the clerk, Michael Hurley, and offered by Rebecca Roush.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Mr. make some time for some comments from the local Board of Health officials and others. And I'll ask John McVeigh to sort of take the first stab at it.
Thank you, Chair McCaffrey. I'll have some comments from both myself, Ian McManus, who is a contact tracing nurse, contracted contact tracing nurse at the present time, as well as the Millis Public School nurse, some statements that they wanted me to read. Statement from myself, being the director. From my perspective, and I haven't been here that long, I've only been here 3 or 4 years, Kathy, in my mind, has been extremely dedicated and knowledgeable as a board member on all levels. Her involvement in the annual rabies clinics, the flu clinics, the current COVID-19 vaccination campaigns has been tireless and selfless. She's also taken up the COVID-19 contact tracing along with Ann McManus, which is a very complex and exhausting task. It's a 7-day-a-week task. I don't envy anyone who has that task at all. Her extensive public health knowledge and her concern for the residents of Millis and her ability to understand the history of Millis and how it relates to public health, bar none. On a side note, I would, from a fiscal end, services that she's given the town of Millis, if you were to put that out into the open market and contract that out, would be tens of thousands of dollars worth of savings that the town of Millis has had with her services and her expertise. So I'd just like to add those words regarding Kathy Planet. I have a statement here from Ann McManus, who is the contact tracing nurse. It has been a pleasure to work with Kathy over the past year in the Board of Health managing COVID infections in Millis. Kathy efficiently works, plans, organizes the clinics, in-home vaccinations, community education, and arranging for volunteers to work at these sites as well. I've seen Kathy work behind the scenes to bring patients food, medicine, and equipment into a system during this pandemic. All the time, she shuns the praise and notoriety. She is a born teacher as well as a nurse and has taught many nurses and other health professionals over the years. Kathy uses her expertise, sense of humor, and dry wit to help difficult situations and solve problems. She has collaborated with school nurses, town boards, and community agencies such as the Council on Aging, Housing Authority, Police, and Fire to optimize care and resources during the pandemic. I join with this board, friends and colleagues, in thanking her for her many years of tireless service and wishing her well in her next chapter, signed Ann McGinnis. And I do have one more from the Millis Public School nurses. They have said that they have worked closely with Kathy for many years. Her incredible knowledge has helped navigate countless complex scenarios. Kathy is just a phone call away. We know we are never alone when we have questions. Kathy has helped us work through the H1N1 bird flu, flu season, immunization clinics, EEE in regards to school activities, tick disease education, and most recently COVID-19. It is without question that we would not have been able to maneuver through the pandemic without Kathy Lannon guidance and support. We will miss her laugh, stories, knowledge, and direction. She has been an amazing asset for the town and our school. We are so grateful for all that she has done for us. And those are the 3 statements. Yeah. If any of the board members or anyone in the audience would like to mention or say something, as Chair McCaffrey mentioned.
Sure. Who would like to go next? Yes. Mr. Mullaney.
Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey. I'm kind of late to the party getting to know Kathy just this year as I took on the role of superintendent. And just with COVID-19, we have weekly health meetings with our school nurses, members of our school committee, and Kathy. And Kathy has been so helpful to the schools throughout this whole period. She's really been amazing, and we rely heavily on her advice and her judgment. And there's been a lot of times where Kathy has predicted what will happen weeks in advance. So when she's off the board, I would recommend she looks into giving stock tips. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, Chief Barrett.
Thank you. So I've had the pleasure of working with Kathy for years, before I was chief and while I'm chief. And, and this year was probably the most challenging year for, all parties involved. But the thing that stands out the most is that we did a public safety vaccine clinic with Medway, Milford, Bellingham, and Franklin. So by far, we're the smallest community going in there. And everybody turned to Kathy. She ran the clinic. She organized it. I referred to her as a general. Whatever she said, they did. And she controlled the scene. I had multiple department heads from other departments, including chiefs, come up to me and say, wow, you're really lucky. She's really good. They were a little jealous. And it was good. There was a bit of pride for Millis that, Kathy came in and just ran it. And we never had any doubt that she would. It's been a pleasure to talk to her every week. Unfortunately, we're always talking about COVID. But, she always has the right information. And like Bob said, the state will say one thing and Kathy will tell us something. And next thing we know, the state's saying what Kathy already knew. So again, it's been my pleasure and honor to work with her. And I know the town's going to really miss her. Well, hopefully she'll stick around a little bit just to give us some more advice to get through this. But thank you, Kathy, for everything you did for us.
Thank you. Mr. White, welcome.
Thank you. And don't get thrown off by the health director. John McVeigh is your health director, not me. I'm in the middle of a town meeting in Natick, so I have to leave the title up there. But I'll have to say that I served for 10 years on the board, and the majority of those years I served with Kathy. And I'll tell you, it was a pleasure serving with her. She was always there, always level-headed, no matter what was before the board. She always did her homework and always made the right decision, was fair, but always made the decision towards what was in the best interest of the community. I can't say enough about Kathy. I consider her not only a colleague, but a friend. With my position in the town of Natick and with her being here in Millis and with the relationship we had, resources aren't always available at local public health. And if I needed something, Kathy was there. If she needed something from me, I was there for her. We each had each other's back, and I just can't say enough about her. I knew when I finally left the board after 10 years that the community was in very, very good hands. Kathy, congratulations. It's a pleasure. Enjoy your retirement from the board. And, best of luck in anything you do. And if you ever need anything, you know where to get me.
Thank you. Welcome. Yes, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would start by saying I fully agree with everything that's been said. I've only had the pleasure of knowing Kathy for about 4 years, but she's always been solid as a rock on all issues, health, and she's always been the go-to person to deal with any difficult health issues to come up, and that has truly shown through over the past year or so during this pandemic. She has certainly been there for us through this whole thing, and certainly has allowed me to sleep better at night knowing that she's been leading these going back through contact searching and doing all the other issues associated with the COVID pandemic. So I just want to personally thank her for all her hard work and everything she's done for the town.
Thank you. Mr. McKay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like as stated, I've worked with Kathy on many different boards, water, sewer, committees, and Kathy's always been there to assist in any technical questions that were needed. I would never go and speak to anybody at the DEP with first running something by her on a technical question. Kathy's helped us with this PFAS issue. She's pretty much dictated where, the source was coming from well beyond anybody really knew. She helped me with the idea of getting the testing done early. When I first made that decision that we should test early, the first person I went to was Kathy Lynn, and she agreed that let's get it done and let's get it over with. And just like Jim stated that, Kathy's become a friend, and I know that she'll be here for fellow residents, for a long time to come. So I want to thank Kathy for her assistance in the time that I've worked here in the town also.
Thank you. So I'd like to just interrupt the flow a little bit here because I think that the board at this point would like to also reflect some of the comments that have been made and also offer a citation to Kathy before we let her offer her rebuttal. So, Mr. Germain.
Well, I don't have the citation in front of me, but I think it's about to go up on the screen.
Yep, bear with me 1 minute here.
And all I can tell you is I reiterate exactly what everyone else has said about Kathy.
That's not the right one.
And I think we're going to have a little different citation coming up in a moment.
I was going to say, that wasn't the one. Bear with me. That was the Golden Mouse Award. Here we go.
There we go.
Can you read that, Peter?
I'll read that. Perfect. Oh, there you go. The citation reads, whereas Kathleen Lannon, RN, MS, has faithfully served the town of Millis and all its residents as a member of the Board of Health since 1999, and whereas she has provided leadership and commitment to the promotion of public health awareness and the well-being of Millis residents of all ages over 20 years, and whereas her services reflected her wide-ranging knowledge of public health issues, thought, leadership, and willingness at all times to demonstrate her hands-on approach to health initiatives, and whereas she has personally participated in numerous local efforts to provide services through the Millis Health Department, such as health fairs, tobacco education, and controlled blood pressure clinics, environmental health awareness, Lyme disease, and EEE prevention and education, H1N1, and flu vaccine delivery, and hazardous waste mitigation. And whereas she has willingly given her time and talent across a broad range of town functions to ensure that the public health consequences are considered, including her membership on the local emergency planning committee and drinking water committee, and whereas she has always been an authoritative and cooperative resource for town boards and departments such as Council on Aging, the Police Department, the Fire and Rescue Department, and Town Administrator's Office, and the Select Board, and whereas throughout the COVID crisis, she has played a critical role in helping the Millis community navigate through the most significant public health crisis in over 100 years, and whereas she has chosen to step down from her role as a Board of Health member after so many years of outstanding service, now therefore let it be resolved that the town of Millis, by vote of its Select Board, does hereby proclaim Monday, May 3rd, 2021, as Kathleen Lannon Day, and directs the town and all its citizens to express their gratitude for her long and valuable service to the community. And it will be signed by all of us, and we really appreciate everything that you have done, Kathleen.
So this is then brought forth to the board. And it's our pleasure to not only read the proclamation, but to vote to declare it. So I would make the motion that the board approves this declaration in honor of Kathy Lannon.
I second the citation.
So it's been moved and seconded. I'll poll the board. Mr. McCaffrey, yes. Mr. Germain?
Yes.
Ms. Underhill?
Yes.
That motion is carried with enthusiasm unanimously. So thank you so much. So with that said, can we go back to the screen? Is there anybody else who would like to offer their comments? Because I did want to give Kathy the chance to at least address the town as well as those folks who are here. So Kathy, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, I'll save you looking at my chins. First of all, Jim, do you feel like we're dead? Thanks to everyone. Because of the roller coaster that's COVID, I'm not done yet anyway. We still have 100 shots to get rid of, so I may not be on the Board of Health, but I will be continuing the COVID vaccination effort. The Board of Health has two members, Matt and Jaikar, and Jaikar just said to me, what did you get me into? And I told her that, well, someone got me into it a long time ago, and that's another Jim White, who's a Millis resident, has served the town incredibly in his years on the Board of Health, taught me everything I know. So I'd like to thank him for all that I did. In Jaikara, it's his fault, not mine. It's incredible to me that I've been on the board long enough that I remember sometime in the last 22 years, I think like maybe 18, 17 years ago, when we were in a fiscal crisis and the public health nurses hours were considering being cut, I actually said, if we ever have a pandemic, this could be a big problem. I can't believe I've lived to actually see that happen. So hopefully public health will get maybe a little more funding and respect after this for some short period of time. I'd like to thank everyone I've had the pleasure to work with. I'm squirming in my seat. I hate this, Jim, just like you too. And I'm not going anywhere. So thank you all. And I try, the important thing in life is to try to have fun while you're doing this. So hopefully through all these times and all these situations, we've all remembered to laugh. And I intend to keep doing that. So thanks. This was embarrassing, but thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Let's have a little applause out there.
Yeah.
You can't hear anything.
I know. Kathy, you're salt of the earth, my friend.
Well, it's all of ours together, collective honor to be able to share our feelings for you and recognize the contribution that you have made. So thank you so much for everything that you do and all that you're going to do as well.
Okay. Thank you all.
This will then bring us to the end of our agenda. I want to be the last one to say thank you to everyone who attended this evening. It's really worthwhile to spend some time recognizing what folks have done for this community. I want to thank everyone for all the support that I've had over the years. It has truly been my privilege to be a member of this board, and I want to thank everybody for that opportunity. So with that said, I would look for a member of this board to make a motion that we adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Selectmen meeting, here we go, the Select Board meeting will be adjourned. I'll poll the board. Mr. McCaffrey, yes. Mr. Germain?
Reluctantly, I'm going to say yes, because it means that you will not be at our future meetings as the chair.
Well, thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thanks. Ms. Underhill?
Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded. The motion is carried unanimously. So this meeting of the Millis Select Board is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.